Football. It's a funny old game. It can take fans from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows in pursuit of victory. But what about that time when for a few minutes a team gave up on that pursuit and instead deliberately scored an own goal to ensure that they qualified for the knockout stages in one of the craziest moments ever witnessed on a football pitch? Well, let's flash back to 1994 and take a look. And so, here we are. Friends has just launched its first season. Salt and Pepper are tearing up the charts with What a Man, and earlier in the year, one of the strangest football matches of all time took place. On the 27th of January, Barbados faced Grenada in the final match of Group 1 in the qualifying tournament for the Caribbean Cup. But before we get into the match itself, let's take a look at the odd tournament it took place in. This was the 6th edition of the Caribbean Cup, which was to be played in Trinidad and Tobago later in the year. The qualifying tournament consisted of 7 groups of either 3 or 4 teams from the Caribbean region, one of the zones in the CONCACAF Association. The format of this qualifying tournament was such that teams in each group would play each other once, and then whoever was top would qualify for the full tournament. As well as the own goal fiasco, there were several other anomalies which took place at this tournament, due to the lesser wealth of some of the national teams from the smaller nations, leading to it to be a much more amateur-style tournament than you'd probably expect for national teams to compete in. For example, if you take a look at Group 4, there was 2 strange occurrences, both happening in the final round of fixtures. Firstly, the match between Dominica and Montserrat had to be cancelled due to crowd trouble, despite the fact the match itself took place in a neutral venue in St Kitts and Nevis. To understand the next anomaly though, we have to first take a look at a rule which was put in place for this tournament, which will then lead us on to the Barbados match. See, at this relatively small tournament, FIFA, who are the governing body for international football, decided to test out some variations on tournament rules, having just introduced the golden goal rule 1 year prior in '93 due to its success in tested tournaments beforehand. Intended for the knockout stage games, the format for golden goal was used as a replacement for normal extra time rules. In both, 2 halves of 15 minutes are played. However, in golden goal, the first team to score wins and the match is over, whereas in normal extra time, the full 30 minutes are played to give the conceding team a chance to come back. In both formats, if no team scores in 30 minutes, a penalty shootout takes place. Interestingly, FIFA elected to use the term golden goal as opposed to the more common sudden death, as they believed the latter had negative connotations. Some notable examples of golden goals include Olivier Bierhoff scoring in the final of the 1996 Euros to give Germany a 1-0 victory over Czech Republic, and Delphi Eli, a defender for Deportivo Alaves, scoring an own golden goal in the 2001 UEFA Cup final to give Liverpool the victory 5-4. The golden goal rule, however, was phased out after the 2002 World Cup to be replaced with the old-fashioned extra time format. And as I said previously, before that it was only optional. However, luckily for us, the organisers of the 1994 Caribbean Cup elected to use it. Not only did they choose to use the golden goal rule, they elected to modify it so that it was used for all games, not just the knockout stages, as they believed a draw wasn't exciting for anyone. Interestingly though, they also added a strange caveat to their rule. If a golden goal was scored, it'd be worth 2 goals instead of the 1. So if the score going into extra time was 3-3 and someone scored a golden goal, the final result would be 5-3. Usually, this wouldn't really matter, as golden goal is normally reserved for the knockout stages only. However, in this tournament, as I said, it was used for group games too, and in group games, goal difference is a thing, and so the extra goal could matter a lot. The second instance of oddity, as prior alluded to in Group 4, happened in the match between St Kitts and Antigua and Barbuda. If you look at the table going into the final round, you can see Dominica had the lead, winning their first 2 games, with St Kitts and Antigua both tied on 3 points, with the advantage going to St Kitts based on goal difference. As stated before though, Dominica's final game had to be cancelled due to crowd trouble, and tournament rules meant that it couldn't be replayed. That meant that the winner of the final game would leapfrog Dominica based on goal difference alone, and we know that there had to be a winner due to the golden goal rule. So who went through? Well, it was Dominica, and no one on the internet seems to know how. It seems the final match between St Kitts and Antigua must never have took place, although there isn't even an official record of the match being cancelled. However, we know that Dominica went on to the final tournament, so it is the only explanation. It's strange to think now, in a time where you can bet on the Peruvian 3rd tier and see the results all from your phone, that just 26 years ago, an international match could have happened, or could not, and we just don't have a clue. And whilst this match was incredibly odd, it doesn't hold a candle to the absurdity of the Group 1 fixture between Barbados and Grenada. Group 1 for the tournament consisted of only Barbados, Grenada and Puerto Rico, making it already odd as it meant the final matches couldn't be played concurrently, a rule which was in place for the final matches of most tournaments since the disgrace in Dijon, a match in the 1982 World Cup between West Germany and Austria, when knowing the results for the rest of the group, Austria allowed West Germany to win 1-0, knowing they'd still qualify, which knocked Algeria out of the tournament. But that's a story for another day. Anyway, given this wasn't possible, Barbados entered the match knowing that they'd have to win the game by at least 2 goals to be able to leapfrog Grenada and win the group, allowing them to qualify for the full tournament. The match started out routinely, and up till the 83rd minute, you would have thought it was just your run-of-the-mill football game. Barbados had so far managed to pull off the unlikely, and were winning by the 2 goals they required to secure the top spot of the group. However, disaster struck when Grenada managed to snatch a goal just 7 minutes from time, seemingly booking their place in the Caribbean Cup. For the next few minutes, Barbados went on all-out offensive, trying to find a way through, but the Grenadians held strong. It was at this point that someone on the team had a brilliant idea, and whether it was the manager, the captain, or a random fan in the crowd, someone in the Barbados organisation realised that trying to score in 5 minutes was futile, especially when they could give themselves 30 minutes to score. And so they took this initiative, and in the 87th minute, Terry Seeley and goalkeeper Horace Stout passed the ball between themselves before Seeley blasted the ball into his own net, making the score 2-2 and seemingly sending the game into extra time, where Barbados would have the chance to get their golden goal. After the own goal was scored, however, Grenada realised what Barbados' plan was and set about trying to stop them. For Grenada to go through, the ball simply needed to go into either goal, and they had 3 minutes to make it happen. This led to the really unusual situation where Barbados were trying to defend both goals, and somehow, despite seemingly be able to have a 2-on-1 advantage if they'd elected to all attack a single goal, Grenada couldn't find a way through, and Barbados held strong, managing to send the game to extra time. It was in this extra time that Barbados managed to bag a miracle, with Trevor Thorne slipping free and securing Barbados' ticket to the 1994 Caribbean Cup in one of the most sensational ends to a football game the world had ever seen. The manager of Grenada, James Clarkson, said in a post-match interview that he felt cheated. His players were running around confused and did not know which direction to attack. Although I would have to comment on that, James. If you're a decent manager, your players would have had the cohesion to just all attack in one direction, and Barbados would have been scarpered. He closed the interview saying, "In football, you're supposed to score against the opponents, not for them." And whilst it is fair that he was rightly annoyed by the result, it should be noted that Grenada themselves had benefited from the rules in their victory over Puerto Rico. Having won 2-0 thanks to a golden goal, if the rule wasn't in place, Barbados' 2-1 lead they had would have been enough to see them through. FIFA did issue a statement on the result, ruling that there was no foul play and Barbados was simply playing optimally under the circumstances. So I guess the old saying is true. You can't win a game of football without scoring goals. But I don't think the creator of that saying included own goals in that adage. And that's all for today. After the tournament, the double golden goal was never used again in professional football, but for a brief moment, Barbados managed to use it to create one of the most brilliant and definitely one of the weirdest finishes in football history. Comment below whether you agree with James Clarkson that Grenada was cheated, or you like me and believe that Barbados was simply smart for recognising a loophole. Please like and subscribe if you've enjoyed the video, and let me know if you want to see more vids about strange occurrences in football, such as the time both teams were trying to lose the game between Thailand and Indonesia so they'd have an easier game in the next round. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next one.